Dallas Mayor Eric Johnson began an assessment of city's track record today with an emphasis on 4 Ps during his State of the City address. He talked about 4 Ps: public safety, parks, potholes, and property tax relief. He said these 4 pillars are essential to Dallas remaining a city of opportunity for everyone. He went on to say the voters have spoken. One of the things the voters want is the legislation that was passed, or the ballot initiative was passed a month ago, said hire 900 more police officers. Crime is one of the things that people in North Texas care about, people in Dallas. So the mayor spoke today. He was talking about some of the accomplishments, and one of the things he talked about is the city is safer than it has been. So I ask you this question. How do you feel about Mayor Johnson's 4 priorities? How do you feel about him talking about public safety, parks, potholes, and property tax relief? Do you agree or not agree with that? What do you think about that? How's that make you feel? Now, the mayor listens to this station. His staff does too. So I ask you, what are the priorities that you would recommend? What would you like to tell the mayor to focus on? Because they listen. They listen. Trust me. They listen. I know they listen. I hear back from them all the time. What would you like to tell the mayor to focus on? And what are you happy about with this mayor? And what would you like to see changed within this mayor and this mayor's administration? Again, he talks about the 4 Ps. What do you think? What's your opinion? What is Mayor Johnson? What has he done? You know, one of the things I think about this after talking to Wendy moments ago is, and I've got to know Wendy over the last year, talking about the issue of prostitution's ring going on around the Harry Hines area. It's the Stemmons Corridor area. Now that area is overrun by prostitution. One of her clients said that they have 20 prostitutes on their property. Wendy went out one night. She told me, I talked to her a couple months ago, and she said, Jeff, for the heck of it, I decided to go out myself one night and check it out and hang out with my clients, see what I would see. And she said it was a prostitution parade. She said there were there were gangs, it was gang warfare, there were drugs, and a lot of illegal guns. Now, the area I'm talking about is defined by the area within the Stemmons Corridor. It's about the area that's 35 on the west, Northwest Highway on the south, goes up to about Walnut Hill, Harry Hines, and just north of Dallas Love Field area. She wants people to call the mayor's office and DA's office and say, you know what, you want public safety? Start there. Because she can't get an audience with the mayor. The police want to do something about it, but as she said moments ago, you can't just send 3 or 4 cops out there and do it. This has got to be a sting. This has grown much larger than just one hooker standing on the street. This is gangs, drugs, illegal guns, prostitution, and human trafficking. And it's gonna take a sting to break it up, and it means the feds may have to get involved. And until someone makes it a priority, it's not going to happen. And until somebody makes it happen, then you're going to see a decay in the city, just like we've seen in San Francisco, L.A., Portland, St. Louis, Baltimore, and go on and on and on. As long as we allow this to happen, it's going to happen. And guess what? They're going to control the turf warfare. 800-288-9227 is my number, 800-288-WBAP. What do you think about it? Gregory from Southlake, thanks for listening and thanks for calling. You're on with Westside Jeff.
Hey, Westside. Merry Christmas.
You too, my friend, Gregory. Thank you for calling. It's good talking to you again.
Good talking to you. Look, I lived in Southlake for 35 years, and I used to go over to Dallas a lot. I used to go down to have dinner and shop for art in Deep Ellum. Used to go to events over there. Used to shop at the Galleria and the North Park Mall. That whole city's become a no-go zone for me. It's just too unsafe. And, I mean, a couple of years ago, there was a case where some crazy guy just started shooting up the outdoor seating area on a restaurant in Deep Ellum. And I've never heard what the result of that was, whether they ever caught him or anything else. But
of course you're not going to hear. They don't want you to know.
And Harry Hines has always been a problem. I mean, when I first moved here, people who had lived here for years were telling me, hey, you got to be careful on Harry Hines. There's a lot of crime. There's a lot of hookers. There's a lot of, stuff down there. And I had gone down to shop at various places on Harry Hines, but, it was always, it's been a sketchy area since I moved here in 1989. So nobody's tried to do anything to fix it. It's just gotten worse.
Why do you think? Why do you think nobody cares?
I think part of the problem is you have a very liberal city council in Dallas who doesn't care whether the mayor switch parties or not. That hasn't changed anything. It's just gotten progressively worse. So they must think that layer of civilization is going to keep them in power, and so they don't change anything. And as far as the mayor's 4 priorities are concerned, I think parks should be the least of his concerns.
I agree.
I mean, that's a boondoggle for their development friends. They put
that's exactly what it is.
In over 30. They put that big Clyde Warren Park in over 35, and they planted another one of these things. It's just a boondoggle. Fix the potholes. Should be number 2. Number 3 should be property taxes. If I was a resident in Dallas, property taxes would probably be number 2 on my list. But definitely the policing and the crime, because it's just gotten so bad, I don't even go over to Dallas anymore, period. I might go to Frisco or, something like that. But the Dallas is just, especially the whole downtown area, which I used to visit a lot, it has been a no-go area for me for probably 10 years.
What's interesting, Greg? What's interesting, Gregory, is the whole story started a year ago with the story I talked about up in Plano about a prostitution sting there. Being significant and the feds being involved. And after talking about it that night on the air, it was December, I think it's about 15th of last year or so. And Wendy heard me talking about it. She called the station. She called in and said, I've never talked on talk radio and had wanted to do it, but your conversation about this got me all emotional about it, and I had to share how I'm just getting stonewalled. I can't get an audience with the mayor. The chief of police understands the problem, but he didn't have the manpower and the gumption to go fix it because he needs support of city council and the leaders, and nobody will talk about it.
They're losing a lot of tax revenue from people like me who like the more metropolitan climb of Dallas, okay, and or what Dallas used to be, but it's just turned into a complete no-go zone for me. I just can't take the risk. There's too many places there to say, oh, you can't carry a gun and all sorts of stuff, so you can't bring like concealed carry. It's just they've just ruined the city, and in my opinion, it's on the same path as like New York, Manhattan, and San Francisco, and everything else. It's just not as far down the curve, but it's on the path. And unless they really decide to get a city council that wants to take a conservative bent on law enforcement and development, it's just going to continue to slide.
Spot on, Gregory, as always. As always, you're right on, my friend. You're right on. Thank you for listening, and thanks for being part of the show. I appreciate it very much. That's Gregory from South Lake. I will add a couple other things. It's interesting, as I've talked about this story a year ago, and I've continued to have conversations with Wendy along the way about this problem down around Stemmons Quarters, and that is, I have regularly, I read the paper every day, and I've cut out some stories. I've saved them, and I've got in front of me a story from March 28th from the Dallas News. It says 30 arrested on solicitation of prostitution charges in Northwest Dallas. It says police officials said they also seized 5 guns and more than $3,400 in cash. I wrote down on my notes, once you attack prostitution, you'll find gangs, drugs, illegal guns, and human trafficking. It's an organized crime thing, and you've got to attack that. Otherwise, the city continues to decay, and that impacts businesses, residences, tax revenue, and law enforcement in the community. I have another article from the 29th of March. It says Dallas isn't enforcing its controversial prostitution ordinance yet. Here's what we know. And the story goes on to say they're just not enforcing it because it's not a priority. I have story after story that says the same thing, and that is it's a problem in our community. Wendy has been one who's been very vocal in saying it's a problem down in the Stemmons Quarters area, down around Harry Hines. It's a real problem, and she needs help. She needs the city to make a higher priority out of it, and what would help is if everybody shot a note to the mayor and the chief of police and the DA's office to say, do something about it. I'll bet she'd get an audience and a call and a conversation about it. I want to ask you what you think about this whole story. How do we solve this issue? We have a crime problem. The police needs to hire 900 people. We have to make it a higher priority. We only do it by talking about it. My name is Jeff. My number is 800-288-9227. How do you feel about that? What's your opinion? 800-288-9227. My name is Jeff. It's Westside Jeff on News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Mayor Eric Johnson, the Dallas mayor today, did a State of the City address. He talked about how our community is safer. I don't feel it. He talks about how much more significant crime is down. I don't feel it. And he placed an emphasis on his agenda of 4 Ps. He called it the 4 Ps: public safety, parks, potholes, and property tax relief. We just talked a moment ago to Gregory in Southlake, and Gregory said, forget the parks. That ought to be last on the list. I agree with you on that one. As you said, Gregory, parks is a boondoggle for their big developer friends. Yeah, can't disagree with that. So the mayor said he wants to focus on 3 things, the 4 Ps: public safety, parks, potholes, property tax relief. When I hear public safety in Dallas, I think about my friend Wendy. Never met her. I've just talked to her on the phone. Talked to her a little while ago, and Wendy used to work in the DA's office. After she left the DA's office, she went to work part-time with a local law firm. She got called by many businesses down around the Harry Hines area, around the Dallas Love Field, and said, we have a prostitution ring going on down here, and nobody will talk to us about it. The police can't do anything about it. We can't get anyone's attention. There are regular prostitutes. It's human trafficking involved. There are drugs, illegal guns. It's all there. It's a decay of a city, and it's starting right. The heart of it is right here, and we need help. You used to work in the DA's office. You know politicians. You know the police. Wendy, can you help us? And she since has been doing what she can to help. But even she's getting she's getting what I call the Heisman, because she can't get an audience. She talks to the police force, but police force can't do a whole lot when they're understaffed. The mayor today said, you know what, we have to listen to the voters. We have to listen to what our city wants. And they've called for additional 900 police officers. And so he says he's going to start that plan in action. My question to you is this. You heard what the mayor said, emphasis on 4 Ps: public safety, parks, potholes, and property tax relief. My question is this. What has this mayor done? Why are we in such a deficit with so few police on the road? Why are we under, I had a cop friend of mine tell me, Jeff, he said they wouldn't go on the air, but they said we probably need 3,000, maybe 3,500 police, not 900. And he wouldn't go on the air. He can't go public because he's fearful for his job. We need more police on the streets, and we need a larger priority in public safety. We do. And if I were the mayor, if I were city council, I'd call Wendy tomorrow and say, you know what? Tell us more. We want to come meet with you. We want to come talk to the business owners who, by the way, are our constituents down around Harry Hines area, who are taxpayers, who fund this city, who pay our salaries. We'd like to meet with them and talk to them. But they haven't done that. What would help is our listeners reaching out to the mayor, the city council, and the DA's office. Send them a note, send them an email, drop them a line, call them and say, you know what? There's a problem down there. Go address it. My name is Jeff. It's Westside Jeff. Sitting in for Chris Crock tonight, tomorrow night, and for a couple more weeks while guys are on vacation. If you want to weigh in, you can. I'm on social media at Westside Jeff. You can also pick up a phone and dial 800-288-9227 like Barbara in Irving. Barbara, thanks for listening. You're on with Westside Jeff. Thanks for calling.
Well, I think they need to leave the parks go, too, and then they can still fill the potholes, but they need to, in order to do that, they need to take out this construction that you see in all the streets. They pull up all the good concrete, and they lay new concrete when they don't really have to bother with those right now. They can, instead of pull them off, putting new concrete down, and you see them on all the streets, they can fix the potholes, which will be a lot less expensive.
So
and
Barbara, go ahead.
I would get more than 900. I would get 3,500 cops on here. And property taxes, we just had a break. So let's concentrate on getting the police and the prostitution off. I see the prostitutes all over Northwest Highway. I'll go all the way. I live in Irving, but I go Northwest Highway almost every day, and they're all along there. And then I even saw one of the pimps watching a young girl. She must have been 15, and made her cause some commotion. And I saw him standing on the side. He was a big guy. And I felt sorry for that girl, trying to get attention so somebody would pick her up. But a lot of them are trying to get attention. No, let the parks go. The people that
well, Barbara, what I'll tell you about that is that prostitution. You say you're another one of those, another one of our listeners that says, Jeff, I see it all the time, and it needs addressed.
I see it everywhere.
And it's and it's not just the prostitution.
Also, I went into Goodwill the other day, and there was.
Say that again.
I went into Goodwill the other day, and there was this young girl. She must have been 10 years old, stiletto high heels, inappropriately dressed, tons of makeup, very revealing outfit. And I don't know if that was her mother and father, but they had two younger girls, and I know she was being trafficked. It's too late to call the police because they don't stay there that long, and they never came back. They're all over. And that was down in Forest Lane in Dallas.
Well, here's what I'll tell you, Barbara. When you see prostitution, as you said, you see every day, I guarantee you're going to find some illegal immigrants in there. You'll find a lot of gangs because human trafficking and prostitution is a business trade operated and controlled by gangs. You'll find drugs.
Yeah, they need to deport them or put them in jail.
They need to do something, but it starts with identifying it's a problem.
Anybody that's in human trafficking, and I hope Trump does that.
It would help if the mayor and the city council would recognize it's a problem, go down and talk to those businesses, and take a look at it for themselves.
Absolutely, and we can cut out all that. They can keep the potholes if they exchange it for tearing up our streets. There's many streets that they're perfectly good, and I see them tearing them up. Don't you see that?
I do. Part of that's utility work, and I think that's growth, and part of the problem with growth in our community creates that is you have to expand on sewers and things like that. Yes. Yeah. And you see
I'm not talking about the sewers. I'm talking about just concrete.
Yep.
They just tear up the concrete streets, and they're perfectly good. There's no potholes in them. They do that in Plano, everywhere. I see them up. They were up on,
well, I've seen it through. I've seen it driving through Highlands too, Barbara.
They did it at Webb Chapel, all over there. Yeah, over there too.
All right, Barbara. Thank you for listening. Thank you for calling. I appreciate it very much. Again, at the bottom of the hour news. On the other side of this, I want to continue a conversation about the mayor's state of the city address today. I also want to talk a little bit about what happened up on the Hill today in Congress, and that is with Representative Pat Fallon from Frisco, tangling with the Secret Service chief in a fiery Capitol Hill exchange. Kind of reminded me of a movie. We'll talk about that too after the bottom of the hour. Come up with Sean Allen in the newsroom in 2 minutes. 3 minutes after that, 4 minutes after that, I'll be back with you. My name is Jeff. It's Westside Jeff, in for Chris Crocker, News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Thank you, Barbara, for calling the show tonight. Jeff is the name, Westside Jeff, in for Chris Crock, as Chris fills in some other time periods, and I'll be sitting in this chair for the better part of the next month, filling in for vacations while Chris is out, while case, he's out traveling with his wife, Carrie Underwood, and I'll be filling in. My name is Jeff. It's Westside Jeff. You can catch up with me across social media at Westside Jeff on Facebook, on X, on Instagram. You can message me during the show, which I interact with on and off the air. You can also pick up a phone call, 800-288-9227, 800-288-WBAP. 2 minutes, I want to talk about the story, the second biggest story of the day for me. It was a big story nationally, but I like talking local stories more importantly because I have strong opinions on those. But the second story I want to hit on, it's a big national story, involves Representative Pat Fallon of Frisco tangling with a Secret Service chief in a fiery exchange. I'll get to that in 2 minutes, but I want to wrap up a little bit about what the mayor did today and his State of the City address. And my thought on that whole thing is this, that ever since more recently, the George Floyd events in Minneapolis a few years ago, we have been on public leaders and the media have been on anti-law enforcement and anti-cop brigade, and that has hurt our country. That has hurt us. That's hurt you. That's hurt me. That's hurt because they've empowered the criminals. They've empowered those who commit crimes. And somewhere along the line in the last couple of years, we've moved way too far from a heavy enforcement era to the exact opposite, where we devalue what law enforcement does. We devalue the police, and we tell our law enforcement officers that they are bad, and it's a bad institution, and it's broken. And I'm here to tell you it's not. I'm here to tell you they're wrong. I'm here to tell you that the reason the mayor today came out and said we need to hire 900 more officers, by the way, I've been told from officers we're down probably more like 3,500 officers because of drops and because of retirements and because of those things. That makes our community less safe. And when our community is less safe, bad things happen. And I can point across this country how many cities, big cities across this country that you and I can point to that are a mess. The cities in decay. And those cities that are in decay started with these kinds of activities: prostitution, gangs, drugs, illegal guns. That's where it started. And the cities didn't get a handle on it. And the cancer grew too big, too fast, that the result had to be a much larger law enforcement presence and a longer time frame to wipe it out. And I'm afraid that we're headed in that direction in the Stemmons Quarter, around Harry Hines areas. Barbara just said a moment ago, she said, Jeff, I drive over to Fort Worth all the time every day, and I drive by prostitute after prostitute, and nobody cares. I can point to several cities across this country that are in crisis mode because these kinds of moral and legal decays started in those cities and they did nothing about it. And I'm talking about cities like San Francisco, Portland, Oregon, Chicago, Illinois, Baltimore, St. Louis. Those cities have real problems because leaders decided to ignore it. Leaders decided not to lead, but to let the thugs rule those communities. And that's wrong. I feel strongly about it. And I've talked to Wendy many times about these things. She agrees, and that's why she has committed her life's work and her commitment to resources to try to help those businesses down in and around that area, within about a 5-mile area of Dallas Love Field. But she can only go as far as leaders will allow her to go and the audience will. And that's where you can help, by putting pressure on our city leaders, on the mayor, on the city council, and the chief of police, to let them know it's a problem and you want them to solve that. And until you do, and until they hear you, until it becomes a big issue, it won't be solved. And hopefully we can catch it before it becomes a significant cancer that will take a lot more than a little minor surgery to fix it. My name is Jeff. It's Westside Jeff, sitting in for Chris Kroc. You can weigh in with me. I'm across social media at Westside Jeff on Facebook, on X, on Instagram, or pick up the phone and dial 800-288-9227. I told you 2 minutes ago I want to bring you up to speed on another big story that happened today, and that was a story that went on in Washington, D.C. that involves Congressman Pat Fallon from Frisco. There was a hearing today up on the Hill, and the hearing was a congressional hearing on the Secret Service lapses surrounding the attempted assassination of President-elect Donald Trump. It erupted into a screaming match today between the agency's acting director and the U.S. Representative Pat Fallon here in Frisco. Now, Fallon's an outspoken critic of the Secret Service recent failures. He's a member of the Special House Task Force investigating where the agency has fallen short protecting Trump in 2 attempts on his life. Now, Ronald Rowe Jr. took over as the former director Kimberly Cheadle for the Secret Service. He took over the Secret Service after the assassination attempt on Trump's life on July 13th in Butler, Pennsylvania, where Trump was shot. So Rowe took over. He testified today as the task force wrapped up its investigation and prepared to submit its final report. Rowe said the Butler attempt represented an abject failure by the agency that underscored critical problems. He said he has sought to implement reforms and to be an agent of change to improve the agency's performance. Now, Fallon today peppered Rowe with pointed questions before asking aides to display a photo of the September 11th remembrance event in New York City. Now, that was attended by President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris, as well as Trump and other high-profile officials. Now, Rowe was visible in the photo standing just behind the VIPs. Representative Fallon from Frisco asked Rowe if he was the special agent in charge who would typically be closest to the president. Rowe quickly cut in to say that the agent in charge was outside the picture's frame and talked about the 3,000 people who died in the terrorist attacks and fireworks erupted. Here's what that sounded like.
I'm invoking this.
You are, sir.
Gentlemen,
and you are out of line.
I would like to ask him a question.
Charlie, do you have that audio? Have that audio. He's going to play it right now. This is what that sounded like today on the hearing on Capitol Hill.
I'm invoking this.
You are, sir. And you are out of line.
I would like to ask him a question.
Please.
You are out of line, Congressman.
Don't try to bully me. I am an elected member of Congress, and I'm asking you a serious question, and you are playing politics.
I am a public servant who has served this nation, and
you won't answer the question.
On our day, on our country's darkest day.
Committee will come to order. Committee will come to order.
I'm asking you serious questions for the American people, and they're very simple. They're not trick questions. Were you the special agent in charge that day?
No, I wasn't. I was there representing the United States Secret Service, sir.
Mr. Fallon, your time's expired.
It did not affect protective operations.
You know why you were there? Because you wanted to be visible, because you are auditioning for this.
I was there to pay respect for a fallen member of this agency.
You endangered President Biden's life, Vice President Harris's life, because you put those agents out of position.
Mr.
Chairman, you have a radio with you?
Mr. Fallon, your time has expired.
No, I did, sir, and you are out of line.
That was an embarrassment. That was a black eye. My name is Jeff. It's Westside Jeff. And in 3 minutes, I'll tell you why I feel like I do. My name's Jeff. It's Westside Jeff on News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. So earlier today, congressional hearing on Secret Service lapses surrounding attempted assassination of President-elect Donald Trump erupted into a screaming match between the agency's acting director, Ronald Rowe Jr., acting director of the U.S. Secret Service, and U.S. Representative Pat Fallon. He's a Republican from Frisco, right here in Texas. Now, Fallon is an outspoken critic of the Secret Service recent failures. He's a member of the Special House Task Force investigating where the agency has fallen short protecting Trump in two attempts in his life. Now, Ronald Rowe, he took over the Secret Service after Kimberly Cheadle resigned in the face of the intense criticism after the assassination attempt of Trump on July 13th in Butler, PA. And Rowe was on Capitol Hill today. He testified as the task force is wrapping up its investigation and prepared to submit its final report. Rowe said the Butler attempt represented an abject failure by the agency and underscored critical problems. He said he has sought to implement reforms and can be, and that he's looking to be an agent of change and improve agency's performance. Now, Fallon peppered Rowe with pointed questions. Remember, this is about the Secret Service protecting the president. And so Fallon is asking him pointed questions, asking his aides to display a photo of September 11th remembrance event in New York attended by President Joe Biden, Vice President Kamala Harris, Donald Trump, and other high-profile officials. Now, Rowe was visible in the photo standing just behind the VIPs. And Fallon asked Rowe if he was a special agent in charge, and that's where this becomes very heated conversation. I'd call it an argument, screaming match in this testimony. And so Fallon asked Rowe if he was a special agent in charge who would typically be closest to the president. Rowe quickly cut in to say the agent in charge was outside the picture's frame and talked about the 3,000 people who died in the terror attacks. Here's how that went down this afternoon.
I'm invoking this.
You are, sir.
Gentlemen,
and you are out of line.
I would like to ask him a question.
Please.
You are out of line, Congressman.
Don't try to bully me.
Order.
I'm an elected member of Congress, and I'm asking you a serious question, and you are playing politics.
I am a public servant who has served this nation, and
you won't answer the question.
On our country's darkest day.
Mr. Chairman, committee will come to order.
Committee will come to order.
I'm asking you serious questions for the American people, and they're very simple. They're not trick questions. Were you the special agent in charge that day?
No, I wasn't. I was there representing the United States Secret Service, sir.
Mr. Fallon, your time's expired.
It did not affect protective operations.
You know why you were there? Because you wanted to be visible, because you are auditioning for this job.
I was there to pay respect for a fallen member of this agency.
You endangered President Biden's life, Vice President Harris's life, because you put those agents out of position.
Mr.
Did you have a radio with you?
Mr. Fallon, your time has expired.
No, I did, sir, and you are out of line.
My name is Jeff. It's Westside Jeff. And my opinion is that was an embarrassment because it's political theater. My question to you is, who wins? Who loses? Who did that benefit? What problems does that solve? I watched that go down, and it reminded me of something else when it comes to political theater, and Washington is not Hollywood. That's not what it is. And that's why I think it's an embarrassment. But you'll know what I'm talking about when you hear it. This is what it reminded me of.
When it went bad, you cut these guys loose. Your Honor, you had markets inside a phony transport. Your Honor, you doctored the logbook. Damn it, Captain. You coerced the doctor.
Consider yourself in contempt.
Colonel Jessup, did you order the code red?
You don't have to answer that question.
I'll answer the question. You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
That was a clip from a scene of A Few Good Men with Jack Nicholson on the stand, and he goes on to say, damn right I ordered a code red, and he went on to talk about honor and glory and so on. The events on Capitol Hill today, that's not Hollywood. You should be getting to the bottom of what the real problem is. And my question to the representative is, sir, what does 9/11 events have to do with the problem with Trump getting shot? Maybe there's a connection, maybe there's not. I'm not sure. My name's Jeff. It's Westside Jeff. And I want to hear from you. You heard the audio. You heard the thought. I told you what the story was today. What's your opinion of what you heard? What's your opinion of that? What's your opinion of how it was handled on Capitol Hill today? I think it's an embarrassment. It did nothing to help solve the problem. All it did is create political theater and political points. That's not what I want. I want you to fix the problem and let's move forward. My name is Jeff. It's Westside Jeff. My phone number is 800-288-9227. That's 800-288-WBAP. I want to hear from you, your thoughts on what you just heard. Thought everyone would continue the conversation about what happened on Capitol Hill today. It was an embarrassment. That screaming match is not what I elected these guys to do. I want to hear your thoughts. 800-288-9227, 800-288-WBAP. My name is Jeff. It's Westside Jeff on News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP.